Yeah, hello Pak Anies. Good evening. I'm Pandito. I'm from Indonesia. Actually, I was working 4 years before I came here for Transjakarta, so I knew the story. I was just want to ask.
Your name again?
Pandito. Yeah. I was just want to ask your tremendous good job on reforming transport, but the debate is always on whether you are subsidizing for citizen or you're subsidizing for operator, because the cost of subsidy for transport is growing rapidly compared to the passengers. So now we have like 4 trillion. How do you manage this, those delicate balance between subsidizing for operator or subsidizing for the passenger? Thank you.
Thank you. And you're with the school, right?
Yeah, I'm an MPP senior.
You're an
yeah.
MPP senior. Excellent. Okay. We'll take the second question here. The gentleman behind and then the one in front.
Selamat sore, Mas Anies. My name is Chrysler. I'm within the school. Chrysler. I can concur the enjoyment experience when walking in the sidewalk of Jakarta. I used to work in Jalan Sudirman.
Oh.
But what I'm interesting in question is that despite the innovation that you introduce, how do you empower the bureaucrats so they can put the innovation stays? They don't throw away the sidewalk when you left the office. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Prof. Zana. My name is Paul Lim. I'm from Malaysia. So my questions to Pak Anies would be about the Indonesia and China relationship, particularly in the Build and Road initiative, as Bandung and Jakarta HHR is one of the landmark project in the it's ongoing landmark project in the Jakarta, and we see significant progress.
Oh, the high speed.
Yes, HHR. We see significant progress after President Jokowi visited Beijing in July. So, as you are one of the forerunner of the coming presidential cabinet, so and you might be dealing with greater challenges, for instance, the state-to-state relations. So what are your views on the BRI in Jakarta and Indonesia? Thank you.
The BRI initiative. Thank you very much.
BRI.
BRI. The Belt and Road.
Okay.
I take one more question from the lady who's standing there. And
sure.
then we'll let you answer.
Hello, good evening. My name is Carla. I'm from the Philippines and I'm MPP Junior. So I think our countries share the history of having a very car-centric society. So my question is that, what led to the pivot or the shift from a car-centric policy to a more focused on public transportation? Because this is something that we also want to do in the Philippines. Was there any focusing event that led to that moment of pivoting from that policy to solving public transportation?
All right, thank you.
This is a slide answer.
So I hand it over to you to answer the 4 questions.
Yeah,
And they're very big ones, actually.
Yes, they're big questions. Yeah. First with Pandito, thank you. Very good questions. Yes, in the short run, if I may say, in the short run, it looks like we are subsidizing the operators in the short term. Why that is the case? One, our ridership has not reached the target we would like to reach. And this is like a chicken and egg problem. Do you want to invite more partners into the business of public transport? You need to have high ridership. And then to have high ridership, you have to invest on making sure that the fleet were available and reaching out to all area of Jakarta. So in our model is this: we invested now, we subsidize, and this will continue to grow. And as it grows, we will then rely on non-fare box revenue. Instead of like today, we're relying on fare box revenue, and the difference is being subsidized. So we are pretty sure that as this continue, we will be seeing that trend. Number 2 is on the TOD development. The TOD development will bring in a lot of investment and it will also change the equations on the public transport expenses. Why that is the case? Because master developer of TOD has to be our company, which is MRT or Transjakarta. So they will be able to make money not only through the revenues from non-fare box and the fare box, but also from the property and the business of TOD. So that's one. Number two, how to maintain this sidewalk so that it continue. Mana Bapak tadi Pak? Okay, Pak, thank you. Yeah, Jalan Jenderal Sudirman is now a place in which I often call it democratization of Jalan Sudirman. Because in the past, only someone like you can enjoy that big street, wide street, and high-rise buildings. The rest of Jakartans could never enjoy Jalan Sudirman because there is no sidewalks. Now, not only sidewalks, we built pedestrian bridge and bicycle bridge so that people can actually come and enjoy that place. So you come to Jalan Sudirman not only during car-free day, which is only on Sunday, but now any time of the day, any day, you can come and you can enjoy that street. Imagine when you live in a kampung, very crowded, very compact, you like to see, a common space that is accessible and free. So when we build sidewalks, the idea is not only about, pedestrian need to be a priority, but we are also talking about making our resident who lives in the kampung can enjoy the city as much as those who don't live in the kampung. So you're seeing our parks, our sidewalks in the afternoon and evening were occupied by so many people. Some of them are coming from outside Jakarta and enjoying the area. How that's being maintained? Number one is translate that into long-term planning document. So that's already on the planning document. Number two, put that into called Provincial Strategic Project, KSD, Kegiatan Strategik Daerah. And with that, it has to be translated into budget and it has to be translated into action. I think now people in the area that we have pedestrian sidewalks can share their experience in a positive way. In the past, I remember when we start building the first project on this was non-Jenderal Sudirman, was Kemang area and Cikini. In the Kemang area, oh my God, the rejection was so strong. They don't want to have a pedestrian. They don't like to have their parking space taken for sidewalks. And these are groups who are highly educated, highly connected. So both are problems when we're having, they have all the argument from the other side. We come up with an offer. Give us 3 meters of your land and we'll give you extra floor for your building. That was the offer. We're not paying for your land. The land is still your property, but we're going to take it for sidewalks and we're going to give you extra floors. So some are getting 2 floors, extra 2 floors, some are getting, depending on the size, some are getting 3 floors, and they're happy. That was the initial happiness. But we need the sustainability of happiness, right? What happened is, I'm giving an illustration. When you come to a mall, you take your car and you park. After you park, you walk in the malls and trying to decide which restaurant you will eat as you walk, right? But when you go to area of like Kemang, you decide which restaurant and then you park. You decide the restaurant first. Why? Because there is no pedestrian. As soon as we created the pedestrian, what happened was they park and they walk and decide which restaurant to visit. So what happened was not only restaurants that have big parking lot that enjoy high occupancy, but also all restaurants in the area were enjoying that. So there is that effect. So we hope by having this institutionalized, we will be able to maintain sustainability of sidewalk development project in Jakarta. But let me note, it is already 241 kilometers. Unfortunately, most pictures were coming from Jalan Sudirman. So people are saying, Pak Anies, don't only build Jalan Sudirman. It is not Jalan Sudirman only, but it is actually across the city. One problem that we need to counter is this. We need to educate our motorists not to use sidewalks for two-wheelers. That is something that we need to, we still find difficulties on that. Even in Kota Tua. Kota Tua is now completely for pedestrian, but the challenge is the motorists were still riding there. And when they fall, they blame it the governor. Pak Gubernur, licin. Of course, it's not designed for motorists. But anyway, that is our challenge. Now, I'm still governor right now. And I'm continuing to be governor until end of October. Yeah. So perhaps, on the next session, if there is another opportunity, I'll address that challenge, okay? But, boleh ya? But in general, I'm not going to talk about the PRI in specific, but if I may, like looking at the case of Jakarta, we engage in collaboration, in cooperations that is transparent, that adopt good governance, and that is in line with our existing plan. So because we have plan for, grand plan for mobility, for example, it was already decided. I did not want to sort of come up with new idea that is inconsistent with the plan for long-term development of Jakarta. Because if we adopt that, it will be a challenge in the execution aspect.
We have a final question on the moving away from a car, moving towards a car light.
This area, the Kota Tua, Batavia, if you look at the pictures on the top, Bu Susana, can I stand here? This is the way it used to be. It was basically a road for cars. This used to be all for motorized. And then now, this is the area, it's all for pedestrian. We did it in stages, not all at once. In stages. 1, we make this area a low emission zone, February last year. Okay? Low emission zone. And it was, when we announced that, of course, the reaction was negative from those who live in this area. And we told them, be patient. If it's not working, we will revise it. But we believe you're not going to lose business. And what happened is they're making businesses. The business is not slowing down, actually. And then now, when we adopted this approach, they already see the opportunity by having it more for pedestrian. So our approach, pinjam. Our approach was this. Oh, this is the way it used to be. Now it's all this area for complete for pedestrian. I'll go on the TOD approach. This is to address your questions. We used to be car-oriented development, corridor-based. What does it corridor-based mean? If you live in an area with wide street, then you may be able to build high-rise. If your street is narrow, if you live in the lorong, in the gang, then you can only build low-rise. We switch that. If you live near the station, you will be able to build high-rise. So 800 meters as a perimeters from the stations, you will be able to build high-rise towers, high-rise building. So the approach needs to go beyond transportations. It needs to go on spatial planning. So on the spatial planning aspect, you need to reform that from corridor base into district base. And that obviously translates into high density and vertical because it is district base. And because of that, then you have an integrated transportations. Then because of that, you have a pedestrian. So you cannot only address transit-oriented by talking only on the transportation aspect. You have to address the spatial planning because that's where the meat is. That's where many of the economic opportunity laid at.
Maybe we can take 1 to 2 more questions.
My name is Ernest Khan. I am the governing board member of Lee Kuan Yew School here. My question to you, Governor, knowing that the capital city of Jakarta, in terms of their administration, is to be moved over to Kalimantan. So as you look forward for Jakarta, with all these lessons learned, what will be the impact on Jakarta when that process is complete? Because then your capital city will be in a city in Kalimantan. And for the lessons that you have learned from building Jakarta, great work, Governor, for the last 5 years. How is that going to impact Jakarta going forward?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. I had the question also about the new capital. You asked it.
Thank you, Panis. My name is Janitra. I'm from Yogyakarta, actually. So I used to be in Gajah Mada University too. So yeah, I mean, but I was in IR. Yeah. So my question is also actually about. I was actually about to ask about the IKN, the Nusantara, and how it will affect Jakarta. Because I mean, all of this development, and now after this, if you have to move the capital, then that's something that you have to, that's probably going to affect Jakarta. But maybe I will ask about other thing that's probably hasn't been mentioned before, and that is to manage the expectation of the, or say, when you're running for government, and then you're running a city, you also have to manage expectations from groups and communities, right? And that will be reflected from your policy. So I know Jakarta has a lot of communities there and with many interests. How are you managing this? So that you can provide a stable situation so that you can develop your city better? Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Lady. Yep.
My name is Aisha. I'm also from Indonesia. My question would be, how would you balance a city that cater both in the terms of social policy and infrastructure? I will give 3 examples. First is the pedestrian bridge in Sudirman Karet. In the shape, we know it's quite new. It's in the shape of Finisi, but it's not sheltered. If you see in Singapore, most of the walkways are sheltered, and it's very, very useful when you're walking. You're sheltered from the rain and from the sun. So it's been, I think some people have also pointed that out. So, and the second one would be public spaces. How would you create a public spaces? We know the case of Citayam Fashion Week. Sorry, public spaces.
I missed the first part.
Oh, the first part. How do you create a policy that balance social policy and infrastructure functions over design, for example? Second is the case of Citayam Fashion Week in the Sudirman area. How to provide these public spaces for the people without the law enforcement being too harsh on them and telling them to go home at 10 o'clock at night, for example. And also the third one is, I appreciate you building so many pedestrians. I see it with my own eyes in South Jakarta, West Jakarta, but I also see so many people still using it for parking, especially the cars. How would you encourage the law enforcement to balance this out for these cars to stop using it for parking lot? Thank you.
Thank you. I think her question all centers around balance. How do you balance different things? Which is not easy, of course.
Ya.
Okay, over to you.
Saya berdiri situ aja nggak apa ya, jawabnya ya, lebih enak. It's been law of the land, so it's gonna take place. How that impact Jakarta? We can sort of look at it from several perspectives. But when it comes to transport, for example, how big is government activity contributed to traffic in Jakarta? If it is big, when they are relocating, our traffic will be better. Right? So it's good for Jakarta, right? If they're relocating. But the problem is, it only contributed 4%. 4% of traffic in Jakarta is government related. So what are the biggest chunk? Household and business. We have 14.5 million deliveries per day in our city. Delivery meaning, the deliveries of food or delivery products, 14.5 million. And we have another PR that is not yet addressed, which is the numbering of our address system. You have one road, one number 2, and then the next is number 20. Okay? And then next is number 30, right? That's happening. We're not addressing that issue yet, step by step. But when it comes to activity, major activity in Jakarta is actually non-governmental. So when it comes to relocations of our capital, we are going to be center of Indonesian economy still. We still contribute 17-18% of our GDP. That's not going to change. And we will see more government employee moving to East Kalimantan. And I believe that the development of Nusantara will not repeat the mistake that we made. We used to be corridor-based development, car-based development. I think over there will be more public transport, more pedestrian to begin with. So I think there are many lessons learned. Why that is the case? Let me underline the difference here. Relocating its capital and building new capital, that's two different things. People always talk about, Indonesia is going to relocate its capital. No, we are not only relocating, we are going to build a new capital. Relocation, example is from Bonn to Berlin. That's called relocation, okay? From Istanbul to Ankara, that's called relocation. But from Jakarta to Nusantara, it means constructing new city. And that's not going to finish in the next 2, 3, 4 years. That's going to take quite some time to complete. During that period, Indonesians were very skillful in adjustment. So don't worry, we will adjust it quickly. Adjusting, that's our skill. We'll adjust it quickly. So we're not worried. And Jakarta is always, I would say, a disappointment to a pessimist. So we'll continue to be a vibrant city. And then on managing expectations. Expectation varies. That's why I put on the board the top 4 highest expectations from public. Addressing cost of living, addressing education issue, addressing health issues, but the expectation varies from one place to another. What we're trying to do here is that address the top priority with all resources, but other challenges need to be addressed as well. Flood, for example. Jakarta is known for having floods. We have 3 fronts to tackle here. In the coastal area, you have the rise of sea levels, and then we have water coming in from the highlands, Even Jakarta is dry. If the highlands have a heavy rain, all these 13 rivers was going to, often overflow are happening. Our capacity of rivers in Jakarta is 2,300 meter cubic per second. At the normal time, that's happening around 1800 to 1900 at normal time, which is below our capacity. But our capacity is 2,300. However, in the heavy rain, it can reach up to 3,200 meter cubic per second, very high. And then local rains. Our drainage system, the capacity is 100 millimeter rain per day. That's the capacity of our drainage system. And the extreme rain that we had in January 2020, the rain was 377 millimeters per day, almost 4 times the capacity. Obviously, we'll have flood. So our approach in managing that expectations, this is also interesting. The middle class expected flood to be tackled, but the middle class never experienced flood. So those who have the expectations were not those who experienced the problem. But if you go to Kampung, they will not talk about flood. They will talk about cost of living. They're going to talk about health and education. But we need to address that. And so our approach is, and this is the way I also work in Jakarta, we always have session of discussion. And answering to your questions about how to make the bureaucrats continue our programs. This is when I started my job in the Balai Kota, I come to the Ruang Rapim. Ruang Rapim is the meeting room for the leadership. When I came there, I look around and I said, there is no whiteboard here. I said, yeah, they didn't have whiteboard. So is this a discussion room or instruction room? If this is a place for meeting, you have to have a whiteboard because it shows that you're going to have a discussion. So the way I run the management in the cities is I ask questions and I ask everyone to answer that questions. How do we tackle flood? And then everyone will share their idea. And I give them questions. How much the capacity of a dam, for example? And then the answer was no one knows the capacity of our dam. We have more than 100 dam in the cities, more than 100. And we did not have data on the capacity of our dam. So even the water was there, we didn't know how much sludge is inside, how much we need to do dredging. So ask questions and let them answer, and that's how we manage. So I also ask these simple questions. How do we measure a success in handling flood? And everybody was thinking, how do you measure success in handling flood? Flood is flood. Yeah, I know. Flood is flood. But how do you measure a success in handling flood? And they had difficulties it was a true story, because we didn't have KPI. So I said, there is no way we work without KPI. So let's set up a KPI. 1, no death. That's number 1. Everyone must survive. 0 death. That's the first KPI. Number 2, it has to be dry how many hours after the rain stops. If the capacity is 100 millimeter rain per day, and the water coming in is 200, it will be flood. It will be flooded, right? That's a fact. But the question is, how many hours does it take to make it dry again? And then everyone discuss it, and they come to conclusion, 6 hours. That's not my instructions. That's the conclusions of all the technocrats who had experience in managing waters in Jakarta. And they come up with the number of 6. So 6 is not a decision by governor. The governor asks questions. They have the experience, they have the knowledge, and very practical. So it becomes our KPI now. Whenever there is rain, and it's over the capacity, 6 hours after it stops, it has to be dry. And nowadays, when you see a flood, very, very fast, you'll get it dry immediately. Last year, there was a flood in Kemang, or beginning of this year, and within less than 6 hours, it's dry again. Why that is the case? Because the lurah, the camat, the wali kota were bringing in resources to pump the water. The fire truck were being sent, the tank for watering the parks were being sent. So many resources were being pulled to make sure it dry within 6 hours. If it didn't reach the target, it will mark in their KPI. And their KPI is linked to their salary. Because Jakarta's employees making good money already. So you need to link it to performance. Now, Aisyah ya tadi. Aisyah, thank you. Very good questions. Why the JPO, or the pedestrian walk, didn't have a shelter? Aisyah, instead, it's interesting. I actually was the one who asked all the shelters to be removed. Yeah. I asked them to be removed. And it's not like I asked them immediately. This is my question was this. I always ask questions. I don't give instruction. I ask questions. The question was this. Why do we need to have a roof here in the pedestrian pedestrian bridge? Well, to protect you from rain and sun during daytime. But you're coming from an area that has no shelter anyway. The sidewalk, both sides, has no shelter. So you're walking from an outdoor to an outdoor. Why do you need an indoor in between? If you're connecting the bridge from inside to outside, that's different. Why that is the question? Why I ask that questions? Because of this. The beauty of Jalan Sudirman is up in the sky. Okay? When you are crossing the bridge and there is shelter, it basically blocks your view. The experience is, in fact, when you are enjoying the upper side of Jalan Sudirman, not the lower side of Jalan Sudirman. And most of us who rode cars, many of us were driving in the back seat. And in the back seat, you don't enjoy Jalan Sudirman. It's your driver that enjoys Jalan Sudirman, because they can see all the high-rise buildings and everything. So I asked that questions to come to conclusion that we will and then remove, so that we can give experience to our residents of the uniqueness of Jalan Sudirman. In other area, when we connect buildings, then it has to be sheltered, because you're walking from indoor to outdoor. You will be seeing in Jalan Sudirman, when it is a bus stop for Transjakarta, for transit, then it is with shelter, because they're moving out of the bus, transferring to another bus, then it is sheltered, because you're connecting from indoor to outdoor. So in fact, the idea is to create a space that people can feel togetherness, and that's sort of the objective. And in fact, I always said, behind hard infrastructure idea, there has to be sociological purpose to be achieved. So behind the building of transportations, we're talking about creating the feeling of unity in our city, the feeling of equality in our city. Same thing with pedestrian, and same thing with a pedestrian bridge. It creates the feeling of equality in there. So I hope I address your issues. And then on law enforcement, the Citayam Fashion Week was a unique case on that. Okay, I don't want to say that's a unique case, and it was only happening during school holidays. Once the school holidays is over, then the Fashion Week is over. So it was not only because the law enforcement, but because holiday was over, they're no longer coming to the area. And this is also one thing that we experience in Indonesia, that policing under the police authority is different than the local government authority. So linking the two is not always easy at the operational level. Okay? Often it didn't go along very well. The last one was about parking. Yes. I mean, this is what I mentioned earlier. This is a challenge that we are still facing. We keep giving tickets. We keep giving basically tickets, and it is quite expensive, 500,000 per day. If your car is being towed, it is expensive actually. And if you have your car for 2-3 days, it'll cost you quite a large sum of money. So we're doing enforcement all the time, but it is a learning process for everyone, because many of us still looking at any space or parking space. And the same thing with garbage can. One day, Susanna, I had a minister taking our MRT. And then after she took the MRT, we met, and then she said, "Pak Anies, the MRT was so good, except one thing." What is that, Bu? It didn't have enough garbage can, waste can. There is no enough, tidak ada tempat sampah, kurang tempat sampah. And then I mentioned, it was designed without tempat sampah. There is no tempat sampah in the MRT. And I said, really? Yeah, there is no tempat sampah. So if we have sampah, take it in your pocket. Bring it home, bring it to the office. But that's an education process that we need to sort of embark. It'll take some time for people. Now, if you take MRT, people realize there is no place to put your waste. You have to take your waste along. And I often said, your waste doesn't mean garbage. Some waste are never garbage. Some waste are actually recyclable, and you can keep it. And some are garbage. But this concept need to be educated. There is a process of habituations to make it a habit, and one day become a culture to us. We'll see when that happens. Again, thank you very much for all the questions and your attentions.